Well, at the end of the day, guys, Johnny and I are never the stars of the show. But I'll tell you what, we do have a star with us. Our students are always the star and the stars. And here's the cool deal. Johnny has one of his very, very own students, one of his stars, joining us today for our third episode of Committed, the College Admission Playbook. So, John, man, welcome. Thank you for bringing your student with us. Tell us a little bit about Evangeline.
Listen, I have this girl, Evangeline, Evie, as everybody probably knows her. So we've mentioned this, the last two episodes that, this isn't just going to be you and I. We're going to try to bring in different people to bring on, different perspectives. And with this being a really unique time of the year, kids are starting to decide. All of these decisions are coming in, and we're now almost in a transition mode where we are kind of sending off our seniors, but then also bringing on these juniors to prepare them for next year and how all this craziness is going to shake out. So we thought, let's bring on a current senior who has just experienced all of this and just allow her to share her thoughts, her feelings, her insight. So when Rennie and I were talking through, okay, do you have anybody in mind? Evie immediately came to mind because she's such an amazing kid, great student, philanthropist, athlete, smart as can be. And so she was an obvious choice. So I am here to welcome Evangeline, aka Evie.
Hi, I'm Evie, and I'm currently a senior. I've been swimming competitively for 12 years. I've been on the varsity golf team for 2 years now. I've been playing golf all throughout high school. I'm involved with Special Olympics. I just got my medallion for St. Lucy's medallion ball program. I'm class secretary in student council, and I also am in FBLA, and that's pretty much everything I'm involved in. And I'm just kind of just starting to decide where I'm going to college now, but I was able to get into UF, Villanova, VT, Clemson. These are like probably my main options, but John has helped me a lot throughout the process, and I'm super grateful. And yeah, that's pretty much about me. Just some basic activities that I'm involved in.
Well, Evie, man, we're glad to have you. We're glad to have you. And more importantly, I mean, our listeners need to hear this perspective. She's going to offer us the perspective, ladies and gentlemen, of what it's like to actually be a senior in the middle of the decision-making process, man. Because if I understand it right, Evie, you have not made your decision yet, right? You've not made your
Not
final.
yet.
Okay.
I'm close.
That's good. That's good. So I want to learn a little bit more about you because you said some things that really popped to me immediately. Here's the most important questions I have. What's your best golf score? What's your best golf score so far? 18 holes. What's your best score?
18. I normally play 9. So I'd say 45 for 9.
Nice. So that's a 90. That's a 90 for 18.
I don't know if I can crack 90 right now.
90. Great job.
That's on a good day.
Hey, well, your best score is always on a good day, right? Your best score is always on a good day. Well, literally, more importantly, getting to know a little bit more about you, because I think this could be helpful to students. This could be helpful to other families. What got you involved in Special Olympics? How did you get connected with that? How did you identify something that is something that you're passionate about?
Well, I've always been passionate about swimming. I've been coaching swim teams like the past 2 years.
Yeah.
I've been giving swim lessons. I got my lifeguard certification. I'm on well, I just ended swimming because our season just ended for senior year, but I swam competitively for 12 years. I swam on the high school team for 4 years. So then one day at practice, our coach told us that we would be starting a Special Olympics team and that all the swimmers had the opportunity to be volunteers. And pretty much everyone on my high school team is volunteering. There's so many opportunities, there's so many meets. I think I'm going to a meet next weekend with my buddy, and it's such an amazing experience once you get involved with it. I found a buddy that I'm really, really close with. We've had such a close relationship now. We've been able to bond. So it's something I'm super passionate about just because of how close of a connection I was able to make with my special buddy.
Well, and we know that so many times when we're giving back, we gain more than we give. What do you think you've gained from this experience with Special Olympics?
Well, I think I've gained the gratefulness of being a swimmer. I feel like before Special Olympics, I kind of took it for granted a little bit, but after seeing that these kids wanted to swim but just couldn't, they don't have the full capabilities that not everyone else does, it's made me more appreciative of the capabilities that I have and that I can work hard, and it just made me a better swimmer in the process.
Love it. Gratitude, man, learning that value of gratitude. And I think that's so important because I'm sure you express that in your applications of not just what you have done, but how those activities shaped you and the lessons that you learned from them, right? And that's really a distinctive in how you should be really creating your resume and drafting your essays. You can talk about the experience of what you did, but how it shaped you is such an important thing to communicate. Another thing, you said you were involved in a student council. What got you interested in leadership and same follow-up? How has that shaped you?
Well, student council's always been a pretty popular thing at my school. It's like you have to be voted in, everyone
Mhm.
wants to do it. Our teacher makes it so much fun. And, it's just, like, super a fun supporting group of, like, people who wanna make a change in the school, and I think it's super cool no matter if we're setting up for dances or we have community day coming up, which is just we plan this whole day for, like, all the little kids, all the older people, we have countless activities, and it's a big thing for student council. We try to get the whole community of um, my district involved. And I think it's super fulfilling to see how it brings everyone together.
I love it. Now, John, you've obviously been on, the front row seats of getting to work with Evie and help her really position herself to have some great choices that she's in the middle of making right now. How did you coach a student with so much talent and so many interests to really stay laser focused and not sacrifice her success, not sacrifice her health? How is that a role that you play?
Evie was such a unique kid because the talent is there, the abilities, this kid is capable of whatever she wants to do. And one of the many conversations we had, shoot, last summer, going into this year, and, we talked about the competitiveness of this thing and, certain schools that she wanted to target. And, rightfully so from a analytical standpoint, she should be able to get into them. And at least from my opinion, and Edie, you can kind of touch on it as well, really trying to work through finding the place that wants you for you and trying not to get too wrapped up in the ranking of a school or the reputation of a school, but really targeting, okay, with her interest in medicine and with her kind of being that rare breed of she eventually wants to go on to medical school, but she has an interest in engineering. So we were targeting good quality schools that had strong biomedical engineering programs, which tends to limit things a little bit from a major standpoint. And so kind of pairing that with, wanting a particular kind of school because, she's incredibly smart, but then she also has, this social element that's really important to her. So not allowing herself to get caught up in the hoopla of
Yeah.
I'm chasing a ranking or I'm chasing a reputation. It is go somewhere that values you, that can see your worth, and just give yourself as many outs as we can.
I love it. Now, Evie, you obviously had good counsel, with my man John here, and you were looking at how many schools. I can't imagine how many schools you actually were looking at. How did you get to that place where you targeted these schools and you're now considering? Tell us about the process you walked through and how you came to these final conclusions.
Well, at first it was really scary, I'm not gonna lie, trying to just get through, like, the Common App, like, seeing these supplemental essays for the first time of these big schools, it was a big deal. I was trying to get into them because I was like, it was kind of about the reputation at first.
Sure.
I kind of think so,
Oh,
but
it always.
now, yeah, it is. But as I've gone through the process, I've kind of realized that it's less about the reputation and more about which school wants me for me.
Mm,
And I think it's cool to go to a school that like really just shows that they want you. They want you to be a part of them. And I think that's really what I'm looking for now rather than just the reputation. And John helped me so much into finding these schools. He was like, "Oh, this place has a really good biomedical engineering program. You should definitely apply here." And places I wasn't even considering and now are my top choices
yeah.
because of John.
Love
Evie,
it. Yep.
so share with the world. What would you say your top three is now? Who's last on the chopping block?
All right. So UF, University of Florida, Virginia Tech, and Villanova are my top 3.
Congratulations. All
Yeah.
right, those are awesome schools. Great, great schools. So you said something that's really interesting to me. You talk about credibility, you talk about reputation, you can talk about all those facts and figures, but at the end of the day, you're really looking now as you get down to these final 3 schools about this feeling you have about how much they want you and how and almost like that fit, right? Well, so tell us a little bit that's very abstract, it's very conceptual, it's kind of like beauty, it's in the eye of the beholder, everyone's looking for something different. What does that mean for you when you're saying, okay, who really wants me more? Where do I see that fit? What's that mean for you?
Well, I think kind of like getting the acceptance letter or video, it obviously made me feel really good. And these schools are like, they're sending a bunch of emails saying, like, we want you to come visit us. We want you to do this, like, countless. And it makes me feel really special that a school is just like kind of like spamming me with this because I'm like, okay, they really care
Yeah.
about me going there in the future. And especially going on some of these like college tours to the admitted students, I really felt that they actually wanted me there and they're like, we hope you pick us. And I mean, yeah, it was just it's such a good feeling is feeling that you're wanted by a school that you've been working so hard to get into.
And to piggyback off of that point for our listeners, I think it's pretty obvious you will be able to see a difference between a school that is pursuing a student from a sales perspective and pursuing a student because they truly want them as a student.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Now, so you're going back, it sounds like, and touring these schools once you've been admitted. And as you're making this decision, right, what are some key things? Because I think it's vital. I mean, we want students to tour, but also, I mean, that's typically the final decision. That's the final step in the decision-making process is doing some final tours if you're able to do so. What are you looking for? Not just their interest in showing that they really want you, but what are some of the clear things you're looking for as you go back for these visits?
Well, for me, something that I'm really looking for is balance. So this is
Mhm.
balance for me with social life and with academic life and just with like just a bunch of different opportunities, like research opportunities, but also known for being like a nice social school with
Yeah.
sports and stuff.
Yeah.
So you can get away from that academic burden sometimes. And that's pretty much what I was looking for was not too much of social, not too much of academics, but somewhere that's really like balanced and can give you that balance of those 3 elements.
I love that. Now, John, tell me
Okay.
a little bit. I mean, I think that's so critical, right? So many times we think about choosing a school, we think of major, right? We think that they have my major, we think of location, we think of cost, we think of all those different types of, maybe things that are the top of mind. But what the things that you're talking about are about fit, right? The things that Evie talked about were fit. John, how did you guide her through that to really understand those factors that are going to really be at the end of the day the reason she selects a school?
As much as I would love to take credit for it, where I think I was the most helpful with Evie was encouraging her to go and actually tour these places.
Yeah.
because everything that is shown online, everything that is shown on TikTok, the videos, everything is based on an assumption.
Mhm.
And we can go off of other people's perspectives and opinions, but really just trying to, be essentially the badgering uncle in this case, where, I'm getting her and her parents to go and try to actually see what does this place look like?
Yeah.
Because when you look online, it's great. It's a great introductory view.
Mhm.
They're going to show you what they want you to see. So every clip is going to be amazing. The weather is going to look perfect. But until you actually physically step on campus, you don't know what it's going to be like. And for her to have a chance to now, she just came back from Florida last week, and in Pittsburgh, for anybody out there who's in Northeast or around the greater Pittsburgh area, it's been 40 degrees, raining and gray for 2 weeks. So I'm sure it was really nice to go check out UF for 10 days over spring break. And now she can then compare it to my experience in Gainesville versus going over to Philadelphia and seeing a totally different perspective.
Love it. Love it. Well, Evie, you got some great options, and that's the best thing we can ever hope for students is right to be in this place during their senior year. They've been successful. They've put some great work to the process and to putting themselves into a place to be competitive. And now you have options. We can't wait to hear where you ultimately end up attending. So best of luck to you. Let's look back a little bit though, right? A year ago, this is really starting for you as you start the application process. Tell us about the ups and downs of getting here. Give us some reflection on the process so these juniors and these parents that are junior parents that are about to walk through this can get a little perspective from someone who's on the tail end of this.
All right. So the ups were pretty much John, I'd say. He was the one keeping me very positive about the whole experience. He really helped me with the Common App. That was really scary to me at first. And he was really able to guide me through the process and kind of show me it's not that scary. Like you can do
Yeah.
it. Just I don't know. Just dig
Baby
deep
steps.
down and
Baby
be
steps.
okay. Yeah, you'll be okay. You'll just take some baby steps and I don't know. It ended up being fine, and I'd say the downs were probably what seemed like endless supplemental essays and, like, how to approach these essays and what you think the school's looking for and what answer you think they're looking for, because I sometimes feel like you kinda have to steer it in the direction of what they're looking for, even if it's not what you initially wanna say. You kinda have to, like, steer in the direction of what you think their values are.
I think it's critical, and whether you're working with a college planner or not, the mindset going into this is so important. So if you're a student out there and you're a junior specifically, or you're a parent of a junior, I mean, what Evie just shared right now is so critical. Your mindset going into this process is important. You got to stay positive. It's a marathon. It is not a sprint. And it can be overwhelming. You dive into that Common App, and there are aspects of it that are overwhelming. There's aspects where you don't know where to put something where and how to phrase it. I mean, I'll tell this to anyone, anyone can complete an application, but that's different than creating a competitive application. And so, what kind of things did John help you walk through that process to help you really not only have confidence in the application you're putting together, but confidence that you're putting together a competitive application as you completed that Common App?
I would say the detail that he went into,
Yeah.
when answering, like, the really specific things. So when it asks you what activities you're involved in, you can list those 10 activities. He really made sure that we picked the best, most impressive ones with the most detailed and articulate responses to those, just to make sure that it was the top tier that it could be. It wasn't we used pretty, like, I'd say complex language. It wasn't just simple. It wasn't a simple explanation. It was really just making it sound detailed and kind of just giving it like making it sound really important by using like big words and stuff.
You got to wordsmith it a little bit, right? And you
Yes.
can't assume that people are going to put just something that, well, you can't assume they're just going to put generic meaning to something, or they're not going to, they're not going to put any meaning to it unless you really put a good description to it. And so taking time and having John help you take time to put some really good description to it and some meat to it really helps you build a more competitive application and ultimately helps you find some more success. Now, the downside that you talked about is probably the number one downside we hear from our seniors. And it's that essay fatigue, and all the supplemental essays. Tell them a little bit about the number of supplemental essays you had to tackle, and then kind of how do you keep momentum and how do you keep endurance through that process?
I believe I had to write 23 supplemental essays.
23. Everyone needs
Yes,
to
it
do
was a
that.
lot.
23.
That
How many
sounds about
schools
right.
did you apply to, Evie? How many schools did you apply to?
I think
Yeah, I
at
think
12.
12
Yeah.
schools, 23. That's not counting your 650 word personal statement, right? 23 supplemental essays. I think it's so critical that people hear about that. There are essays to be written. Now, how did you manage that?
Well, I think what you said about it being a marathon and not a sprint is very important because for me, John would kind of set like deadlines for each school. He'd be like, I think we should get this school in by this date. So I didn't have to rush to get them all in before the deadline. We had time to like kind of just take on one school at a time. And then whenever we'd meet, we'd look over the essay, make sure it was perfect. And we do this probably once a week until the first deadline came. And I think honestly, getting on it right away and just doing a little bit at a time it's what you have to do because if you wait till the end to do all of it, it's going to be way too stressful. Your essay's not going to be good. And I think John setting these deadlines was a very beneficial to me.
John, how did you help her come up with a sensible strategy and timeline to tackle these 12 schools and these, supplemental essays? How did you find that timeline for her?
Well, so I mean, there's plenty of ways to skin a cat. For Evie in particular, we were juggling her medallion ball activity, her swimming activity. So first, working around the kids' schedules. So like school is always going to be a priority. The activities after school are probably second priority. And then trying to manage all of these things around those while also trying to help this kid not want to jump off of a bridge. So really looking at and prioritizing, okay, what are the schools that are low hanging fruit essentially? So what are the schools where, this prompt, it's really similar to this prompt, and can we be strategic, and can we recycle? Maybe we write the 500 word version of this and we trim it down to the 300 word version of this for this school. So it's really, looking at what schools are you targeting, which ones are their priorities, and then just taking it in baby steps.
Yeah.
And
I
then
think
whether
that's what I want people to hear is
week
that it's
by
not just
week,
being a list of deadlines and going through it, right? And say, well, this
no,
one's to do first, this one's to do first, this one's to do first.
very
It's you gotta
strategic.
look at the whole. You gotta look at the whole and say, okay, what strategically makes the most sense here? And it's not necessarily just a deadline. John, the other thing that I heard you say that is so important, Evie's still a student.
She's
She
still a
still
kid.
has life going on, and not just life, the most important year of her high school history, her senior year. We don't want students to miss out on their senior year,
No,
right?
and Evie, you can probably speak to, because we do things sooner than a lot of other seniors. So, the bulk of our heavy lifting was probably done in what, September, October.
Yeah.
But I know you had a lot of friends at your school that were trying to hit those early decision November 1st deadlines or December 1st, and you're kicking back and you're enjoying your time as being a senior, right?
Oh, absolutely. I I really appreciate you like spacing it out instead of just all bunching it for November 1st because I was able to get these essays like mainly done before school started picking up because it was pretty calm like the first couple weeks, and that's when I felt like I really worked the hardest on the essays was when school was calm. So I think honestly getting on it right away was definitely helpful for me, and also just, taking it in a little bit at a time, and I was able to balance everything with, like, my homework, with my activities outside of school, and I think you made it really easy for me to do that.
Listen, whatever ends up happening with you, I've told you for 8 months, you deserve everything that's coming your way. I mean, this kid, what, eight AP courses a year, valedictorian at one of the best schools in Pittsburgh. She's incredible. And it's because she works her butt off and she's humble and she's genuine. And that's why good things are coming your way.
If you're a student listening to this, here's what I want you to hear. So many times, you're going to make it, I'm going to call it what it is. It's an excuse that you're too busy. Well, listen, there are students everywhere across this country that are busy, but they figure out how to get it done. And if you want to compete with these students, like we have here with Evie, you're going to have to figure out how to be busy like she is and still get it done. So that was probably one of the most stressful aspects for you, Evie, was balance all this. But besides, balancing the workload, what would you say is the single most stressful part of this entire process?
I would say the essays.
Yeah.
I have a
Yeah.
better
Yeah,
for you. I have an answer
the
that
Common App.
no, the waiting game.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is the most stressful, most excruciating part. You bust your butt from July to October, and then it's crickets. You have to wait 5 months for the biggest decision of your life. To me, at least, if I was 17, that would be the most excruciating part.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't even think of that, but it was honestly just waiting that long, and I know a lot of schools this year went through, like, the deferral process because there's so many applicants, so everyone got deferred from everywhere, so having to wait even longer is crazy.
That's
It was so
excruciating.
bad.
So how
Yeah.
did you handle your sanity and manage your sanity through the waiting game? What advice would you give somebody that, or what you did to get through that waiting game?
I would say that I was honestly just distracted. Um, I was distracted with a lot of schoolwork, a lot
Good.
of activities, so keeping
Yeah.
yourself distracted, and I'd say the first round of decisions was probably the most stressful because it's round 1, but then
Yeah.
by the time the second round came, you kinda calmed down a little bit. It was more manageable, and I think you just kind of relax and you kind of just think, "Okay, I'm gonna be where I need to be," and I think you kinda realize that throughout the year, or at least that's how I've viewed it.
I love it. I mean, nothing is more stressful for any of the students that we work with than the time it takes for them to submit their application and get their first acceptance, right? Get their, oh, I'm going to college. I'm going to college. Well, Evie, we have families and we have students that are listening to this. And I'm curious, what's the one piece of most valuable advice you feel, or maybe two or three pieces of advice you would give that high school junior or that high school junior family? What kind of advice would you give them as they start stepping in to their application season in their senior year?
I'm going to be brutally honest. I think that everyone needs to step it up because the applications this year and continuing on are no joke. Students' resumes are getting crazy, and I think if you wanna stand a chance, you have to really just stand out, and you have to step up your resume. You have to, like, try new things. You have all summer for the upcoming seniors. Do something. Do something that's going to stand out because you need to stand out with everyone, with all these applications flooding in. You just need to I feel like it's never been like this before. You need to really step it up.
Step it
Oh,
up. I
listen, can we
love
put like a
it.
disclaimer?
Yes.
Can we tell the producer, put a
Yeah.
disclaimer for Step It Up as she releases?
Step it up, right? What a great addition to our
Uh-huh.
playbook. Students, step it up. John, you brought a star here today. As a college planner, though, what lessons have you learned from working with someone like Evie?
Truthfully, I wouldn't necessarily say something that I didn't already know, but it kind of confirms the unpredictability of this entire process. And, Evie's a perfect example. And I'm not going to share too much of Evie's backstory, but an amazing kid who, statistically speaking, could have potentially gotten into every school in the country, but she didn't. And so just reinforcing the idea of you have to have a whole lot of options because it is incredibly unpredictable. As accomplished as she is and well-rounded and statistically speaking, there were still some people in universities that, it wasn't a good fit for whatever reason. And we'll never know that. But just continuing to confirm that there's so much more to this that's out of our control. And we just want to take ownership of the little pieces that are in our control and just run with it.
Love it. Love it. I tell you, Evie, congratulations. And, so excited, like I said earlier, to hear where you make your final decision. As we say all the time, the college doesn't make the student makes the college. And wherever you go, I know you're the type of student that's going to take advantage of all the opportunities in front of you and have an amazing college experience. So congratulations and good luck on your choice. And thank you for joining us today. Guys, lots of great stuff here today. And, most importantly, you didn't hear it from me or you didn't hear it from John. You heard it from a student, and the students are the stars. At the end of the day, the students are the stars. They're the ones making it happen. And what you heard from Evie is a student who wasn't just excelling in the classroom. And I hope you may not have caught this. AP classes, not just one or two. She was taking a pack load of AP classes through her senior year. I hope you heard
Eight this year.
Eight this year.
Oh,
Evie doesn't know if she
maybe
agrees.
8 total.
8 total. Okay, so
Wow.
packed AP classes, right? And a packed extracurricular, being an athlete, being a leader, being a servant to her community, looking at schools, doing her research, making sure she has options by doing the hard work of applying to multiple schools, right? And now taking the time to enjoy the fruits of her labor, to have some options to where she can determine. She's in control and she gets to determine where she will spend her college years. Those are all great, great tactics and should be part of your admission playbook. Thank you for joining us today. And that concludes today's episode of Committed, the College Admission Playbook.
Thanks for checking us out.